You were asking for a definition, Jill, of conservative, and I found one today. Barry Goldwater came up with, I think it's in his book, Conscience of a Conservative, where he's talking about, I guess, even back 60 years ago, people used that label conservative, but they really weren't. I feel certain that conservatism, you say it, is through unless conservatives can demonstrate and communicate the difference between being concerned with the unemployed, the sick without medical care, human welfare, etc., and believing that the federal government is the proper agent for their solution. That's in his book, Conscience of a Conservative. He also points out a little later on, I have little interest in streamlining government or in making it more efficient, for I mean to reduce its size. I do not undertake to promote welfare, for I propose to extend freedom. My aim is not to pass laws, but to repeal them. It is not to inaugurate new programs, but to cancel old ones that do violence to the Constitution or that have failed their purpose or that impose on the people an unwarranted financial burden. I will not attempt to discover whether legislation is, quote, needed before I have first determined whether it is constitutionally permissible. And if I should later be attacked for neglecting my constituents' interests, I shall reply that I was informed that their main interest is liberty, and in that cause I am doing the very best I can. And that's Barry Goldwater 60 years ago, 1964.
It's interesting how you put liberty in there.
Yeah, I think that's the thing today to look at. These people that claim to be conservative, they're big government conservative. They think that, they want to get all moist-eyed and weepy because they propose programs to so-called help everybody and do things and create more government. And actually, they're doing a lot of, disservice, and they're attacking liberties and freedom when they're doing it. So conservative means to streamline the government, not enlarge it. And that's what too many of those rhino Republicans have done. They're all about increasing the size, cost, reach, and power of big state government.
All right, Bernie, so who is your choice for the 4th Congressional District President of the United States?
Oh, Donald Trump for president.
Okay. And who is your 4th Congressional District choice? Congress, sorry.
That'd be Thomas Massie. He has upheld the Constitution, even when it's not been convenient, and even when his own party is attacking him, he stands up to him and he upholds his oath of office.
Senate 11th District. Who's your choice here?
Rawlings all the way. I think he's proven himself with his one term in the House, and Steve Rawlings will make an impact in the state Senate. He'll join the likes of Lindsey Tishner, Adrian Southworth. He'll go down there and he'll help big time with some of them.
And how about State Rep 60th District?
That'd be Marianne Proctor. Marianne has proven herself, and for her sticking her neck out, she has got the hounds of hell against her. She's got the Chamber of Commerce down on her, all the medical people. I mean, it's just a riot, out there trying to knock her out. Lots of money is being spent against her, but she has stuck to her guns, and she has really taken an issue on that CON, and she's made great strides. I believe, that another session or two, and she'll have it. So she's got to win. We got to have her in there.
Okay, how about State Rep 61st District?
Savannah Maddox, yeah, she's very constitutional. She's never, ever voted for a tax increase. She's a true conservative as opposed to a big government conservative. So she deserves to be brought back.
And then State Rep 66th District.
There's some guy named Dirty Ed running.
Yes.
Yeah, we got to get TJ Roberts in there. With what he knows and what he can do, he can really upset leadership's apple cart, which needs to be done down there. He'll stop a lot of bad legislation. Oftentimes, you can tell how good of a session you've had by how much bad legislation you've killed. And he'll always be pushing for liberty. That's what I like about him. Ed Massey has done all the wrong things when he was in there. Uh, he's against school choice. He's for more and more taxes. He stuck up for the governor when the governor deserved a kick in the teeth. Yeah, it's got to be TJ Roberts.
And how about State Rep 69th District?
Steve Doane. Steve Doane's another one who has definitely proven himself with his one session under his belt. Couldn't be any happier with him. And, he's standing for the right things and he deserves another term. He's a proven tax fighter, which I really like. I did put it on Facebook and I've gotten like 100 likes. I can't tell you how many shares. People from the Republican Party as far away as Bowling Green are begging for a copy of it. They want me to send copies of it in the mail to them. They are told that they were always told that they cannot get involved in primaries. And, it's so ridiculous to hear Gary Moore squeal about this, Ed Massey, Chris Pavisi, all these people. When the RPK, Republican Party of Kentucky, they've certainly gotten involved in primaries. I can remember a dozen years ago or more, they spent way over $100,000 to knock out State Senator Virgil Moore, who was Transportation Committee Chairman, and they sent out a real nasty mail piece. Showed all these kids in a bus wreck, all laying out on the road, being killed, and they were blaming him, saying that he refused to hear this bill on seatbelts. They all wanted seatbelts for kids in school buses, and Virgil Moore refused to hear the bill. So they were tearing him apart with Republican Party money. So they certainly got involved. They did the same thing with Wesley Morgan. I think he only had one term in, but they put up a candidate against him. RPK did, and RPK spent probably $100,000 to knock him out. Told all kinds of lies. They did the same thing to Dalton Jansen in Meade County, kept him from getting elected. It just goes on and on. So it's pure hypocrisy for these Republican stalwarts to be saying, hey, you can't get involved in these primaries. It just isn't done. When their own leadership down in Frankfort has done it on multiple occasions. I mean, it says right on the flyers, paid for by Republican Party of Kentucky. So I say, thank God for our Republican Party in Boone County. We did the right thing. We really hit them hard, and I hope they cannot recover from this. The record's the record. We're getting them good.
Can you tell people why the primary is so important? Because there's not even a single Democrat running in the primaries for local office.
If I was a Democrat in Boone County, I would not file for anything. When I was young, just starting to vote, it was like 10-1 registered Democrats over Republicans. This is late 60s. And it's changed so much that it's almost 2 Republicans for every 1 Democrat now. If you're a Democrat, that's the kiss of death. You're not going to get any votes. That's why when you go to the door and you've got a primary and you're telling them about the Republicans that, you're promoting and, you don't even think that they're listening, and they're probably not, to people, because when you go to walk away, they'll say, "Don't worry, I always vote for the Republican." And I'm like, that's what I'm trying to get across to you. All Republicans are not the same. So many of these so-called Republicans today, these rhinos, have decided that they're going to have to run, they're going to have to switch from Democrat to Republican to run for office. It's the only chance they have of winning. And when you look at it, people like Gary Moore, who was chairman of the Democrat Party back in Pendleton County before he came to Boone County 30 years ago, our sheriff, our state senator, John Schick, all these people were Democrats, but they all switched to Republican. A lot of them switched because the Republican Party was more, I guess, in line with their thinking, and the Democrats had left them. But no Democrat could win in Boone County. You go to somebody's door and tell them you're just running for dog catcher, they just laugh at you. If you're not a Republican, forget it. You're not going to get that vote.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up, because I knocked on a few doors and they said, well, I just vote straight Republican. I said, that's great, but for the primary, that's all you can vote for. So you need to do your homework. And I try to explain that to people, and it was like a glaze. They didn't understand what I was trying to explain to them.
Well, that's why this is where all the signage comes in, the sign waves, the mailers, because they need to see a candidate's name 10, 12 times before it starts registering with them. And, the people that endorse those candidates, all that means a lot, because most people will not do their homework. And
Yep.
I'm not even convinced that it's a lot of these people should vote. I think, if they haven't done their homework, just stay home.
Boone County needs to understand these local races, whoever they elect in these primaries, that is who wins the general election.
Yep.
Right.
That is your only choice. This is our choice right now. This is our only time to make the decision who's going to be elected.
On all the local, state and local, that's very, very true. If you're a Republican, you win the primary, you got it. Presidential race, yeah, people want to go and vote for Trump in the fall, but for Boone County, Trump's going to rock and roll. And even if Steve Rawlings or Marianne Proctor or Steve Doan or TJ, any of them have a Democratic opponent, it's going to be negligible what that opponent does, because it's just a lock. The Republican's going to win.
Well, they're not even running anybody on there. There are no Democrat primary because they know.
That's encouraging.
So they're not going to have opponents unless an independent.
So while we got them down, we need to stomp on them. And same way with the rhinos, and we're doing the right thing. We are enlightening people about who to vote for and why, and bringing up all the record of the bad candidates. I think it was George Washington that said something to the effect that truth will ultimately prevail where pains are taken to bring it to light. People need to hear over and over again which candidates, like Ed Massey, voted no on school choice, which ones voted for taxes. Just keep hammering that. And that's how you get it across to people. People despise taxes. Pocketbook issues are a very hot item. And if you can show them that, hey, this so-called Republican voted for taxes, people will reject them. They will. And I don't care how much money the stinking Chamber of Commerce or the teachers' unions or any of these entities spend, it's not going to be enough. They'll spend they could spend 10 times what the good Republican candidates, the Liberty candidates spend. But because our people fervently believe in what we're doing, and we know that the vast majority of voters out there are with us, we can go door to door and be confident. They can't do it. I would imagine that a lot of those rhinos are having a tough time at the door.
They're going to have trouble chasing all the lies that they have all on this collateral that they're sending out. is a bunch of garbage, especially when it says conservative like 5 different times on the same piece of collateral. I don't know. That's just like a red flag for me.
It is. And, again, just remind them that there's conservatives and there's all kinds of grades, I guess. But, most of the big government conservatives are the rhinos out there. And then, or they could be neoconservative instead of paleoconservative. The neoconservatives are for bigger government, more wars, more taxes, more immigration. So we need, the true conservatives, like what Barry Goldwater was talking about. We need true conservatives.
I mean, anything else you want to throw on Gary Moore?
Well, I do hope and pray that he does retire. He's got another, I guess, 2 years, but he's been threatening to retire for a while now. I hope he does retire and we can say goodbye to him because he is involved in so much regional government. I mean, whether it's the airport board, Ohio, Kentucky, Indiana, OKI, just Chamber of Commerce, just everything he's got his hands in. And we need, more of an independent type judge executive in Boone County. I'm so tired of, putting up with all this nonsense. Well, over in Campbell County, they're doing this. Kenton County's doing this. Who cares what the other counties are doing? We don't need to do it. We don't need to walk lockstep with all the other counties. We need to do our own thing. It's just, they just want to spend more and more money and government just get bigger and bigger and bigger. People have got to see that when they're paying their taxes, their property taxes, they know that they are really getting shafted big time, and I don't know, it's got to reach a breaking point, and it has for many people. It's already reached a breaking point. So it can't continue like this. Something's got to change. But I would be more in favor of Chet Hand running for judge executive in 2 years. That'd be the type of guy that I would want. I'd be a little leery of Jesse Brewer being a big government conservative. I don't want that.
Any recollection of the creation of the Planning and Zoning Commission? Because that's 3 counties wide, right?
Mhm.
And I've had constituents tell me that they've gone to the meetings and the planning and zoning doesn't want to hear from them and they're appointed, correct?
Right.
When was that created? Was that created under
Back in
Gary Moore?
No.
Okay.
Back in the 60s under Judge Executive Bruce Ferguson is when they came up with planning and zoning for Boone County. They've had variations over the years to make it bigger. When Lloyd Rogers was judge executive in Campbell County, he's famous for axe to tax. He stopped planning and zoning over there. He really put a halt to it.
So they could stop it.
Oh yeah. They could, the other thing they could do is they could stop the Northern Kentucky Independent Health District Board. Why do we need to be a member of that? Why can't we have our own Boone County Health District? It would save us a lot more money. And you look at the buildings that these people build for the health department, like up in Florence, or for the I call it the turd works they got down there in
C1.
Sanitation District 1. They build these gigantic palaces, spend so much money. It's just ridiculous. There's no reason for it other than greed. And they just want more and more control. And they're taking away people's property rights and they're bankrupting people. And and it's true when you go to these meetings, and I've been to several of them down there. And you sit there and you raise your hand. They don't really want to hear from the constituents out there. They want to lecture you on what they're going to do. Same way with Kenton County planning and zoning. They're even worse than what we have in Boone County. They don't really want any input from us. They just want to dictate what they're going to do. But when you look at it, all the counties are working towards a common goal. It used to be 2010, 2020, 2030, they all have this plan that they're all part of, and it's all regionalized. Everything's regional. And I'm so sick of that too. We don't need to be part of a regional scam.
And for people who haven't been here for 20 plus years, SD1 used to be half of your water bill, and now it's way more. And how they come up with your bill is a total scam.
Certainly is, and then charging you for rainwater, a rain tax, just stupid things anything to get more money out of people.
But that had to be approved by Judge Executive Gary Moore and the two judge executives, one from Kenton and one from Campbell County. They approved it.
That's true. But there again, the commissioners should raise more help. They should, create more awareness of it, and they should fight harder for us. I really wish they would, because there's a lot that could be done if they go to war, even if they're going to war with their own judge executive. He's the judge executive. He sets the agenda, but he's not a dictator, and they're letting him get away with too much stuff. I just hate to see the steady advance of government, because the bigger government gets, the smaller our rates become.
And the more money they take from us
That's right.
to pay for it.
They'll take it all if they can.
How many times has Gary Moore started his speech at the Republican Party meetings as, I know most of you don't like me?
I was with him at OKI meetings, at the airport meetings, all these hospital meetings. He always introduced himself. I'm Gary Moore, Boone County Judge Executive. You just can't say that enough. How great I am. I don't want to sing how great thou art to him. Boone County grew not because of him, but in spite of him. Boone County was poised to grow because of the airport, because of the river, because of the expressway. We all knew it was going to grow. And yeah, we did go from 35,000 people to probably, what is it now, like 150,000 or more? I don't know. It's something fantastic. But it would have went that way even without him being judge executive. And when they throw in all these different taxes on it, it's just a hindrance, and it's an aggravation to the people. Now you got to pay a dwelling fee to live in your own house. You never heard of such nonsense. But they just keep coming with more and more of their socialist ideas is what they are.
Well, I've attended 2 town halls hosted by Marion Proctor and Steve Rawlings. Chet Hand spoke at both of them, and he talks about the trajectory of growth here in Boone County and how it's spiking and it needs to slow down.
Yeah, they're not setting up road infrastructure to support all the building and communities and the apartments and the townhomes. The roads aren't set up for that kind of traffic.
No. And I argued that just a couple years ago at the fiscal court. The property adjacent to my parents on Hathaway Road was bought by a big developer, and they're talking about all these homes and subdivisions they're going to put in. It's a big tract of land. And I says, well, you've always said in the past that if you don't have the infrastructure, you can't put that in. Well, have you got the infrastructure? Has anybody from the fire department come and spoken to the issue? Do we have enough good roads, water in place, everything, for this building? And it's always arbitrary and capricious. Seems like whoever's, getting the most money are the ones that get what they want as far as development goes. But then they can turn around and use, we got to save green space against the little guy who might just want to build an extra house on his 5 acres or whatever. So it's being used against the people, the power of government, and it's all wrong. It's so very, very wrong. I just assume we, threw all that out and started over.
Well, I've asked the question about all of these people moving into Boone County and how are our fire departments, our sheriff's department, how are they going to accommodate for all of these people? And you know what they told me?
Right.
What we always done in the past is we adjust, we adapt. That's how we're going to make it work. But I'm like, what does that look like?
Well, I'll tell you what it'll look like. It'll look like some of these real big cities that get so big and out of control that there's whole sections of the city that the police and fire won't even go into. It's just, they just let it go. And criminal element has taken over. But, that government governs best, which governs least, is what Jefferson said. And what I object to is every time they get a chance, they want to grow government, get government bigger, get it more involved, get more programs. And, we look at it and we're like, what are you guys doing? I'll tell you, if we could just have regional government, just between Boone, Kenton, and Campbell, have all these regional offices and things, it'd be better. Well, it has never proven to be the case. It's always costing more. So they really got it screwed up in their thinking. I think they should, be all about cut down the size, cost, reach, and power of government. Look at a bill in Frankfurt or an ordinance even in Burlington. Say, is this really needed? How much will this cost? Is this constitutional? Will this increase the size, cost, and reach of big government? And, if they'd answer them simple questions, they'd get it through their heads that, no, we don't need this. We don't need new government programs all the time. Because eventually you're going to get to where you just have total government and loss of freedom. And if anybody thinks I'm kidding, just go back, see what your grandparents had to do or your great-grandparents had to do on their farm or on their property back in the early 60s compared to what they got to do now. There's all kinds of taxes and fees and hindrances, and fees are taxes. They can call them fees, but they are taxes. And they just keep coming up with more and more. And it's like death by 1,000 cuts. Just like at the school board meetings I attended for many years, you go and you speak against the tax increase that was in consideration. They listen to you and they bob their old bobbleheads would be like, yeah. Then they'd all vote 5-0 in favor of the taxes. They didn't care.
Mhm.
They're supposed to control, what is going on, but they don't have no intention of doing that. They just do whatever Frankfurt tells them they got to do.
Mhm.
And it's wrong.
Well, and the problem with regional government, and I would even argue some of state government, is that the people, you lose your voice because there's so many people looped into that you just become one of many. If government stays localized, those are your neighbors. You can take your pitchforks right to their house with a whole
That's right.
group of you, and that will be enough to be heard. When you regionalize things, you're just not going to be heard. They're not going to listen to the people. They're going to continue to do what the corporations want.
Yeah, the government closest to the people is the best. That's always been true. But if that's all you can do is count on your government down in Frankfurt or in Washington, they might as well stick a pitchfork in us because we're done.
Yeah.
We need to have local control, and we don't need to be. And I'm not one that wants to go out and fight all this stuff, every other week. I mean, they can come up with a proposal once every 5 years and we can say yay or nay. But, it's just stupid. Gary Moore came up with that, have ordinances and stuff against not only noise, but I can't think what they called it. But they ran it not once, but twice to try to get it through. It was defeated each time, but it's a progressive thing. They want to, move it forward, inch it forward. I figure, well, next time the people won't be paying as much attention and we'll get it through. And they've done that successfully on so many taxes, so many ordinances, so many big government plans. They just, keep pushing and pushing and pushing. And it's patient gradualism is what they use. And they couldn't come in here and say, hey, we're going to take over your property today. But by patient gradualism, a little bit at a time, eventually they'll get it all or they'll control it all, which is what they want. So there's a lot of dangers out there. People need to get more involved. I know it's difficult because most everybody's working one or two jobs, and it's not like it used to be. People, just don't have the time, but you've got to make the time because once your freedom's lost, it's lost forever. You'll never get it back. And code enforcement board, that's what Gary Moore wanted. And I remember he tried that probably 15 years ago. We shut him down. And then probably another 8 years ago, he come up with it again. We shut it down again. But code enforcement, think about the things that we've done just locally in Boone County. We stopped the parks tax, the code enforcement board, twice we stopped that. That clean needle exchange, we stopped that. I mean, there's been a lot of things that we've been involved in and have put a stop to. And we almost stopped, the dwelling fee. Never quite got there, but, we have beat a lot of things into the ground, with our representation at fiscal court and in Frankfurt. So, and a lot of times, there'll be a bill that's proposed by a well-meaning legislator, and he hasn't thought ahead of the ramifications, what this is going to cause for the future. So if you can get with him and educate him, he'll even withdraw the bill. I've seen that happen a few times. But mostly every session, they're increasing the size, cost, reach, power, and scope of big state government. Hundreds of bills get passed. They might file and propose 1,500 bills, and they're happy if they can get 200 or 300 passed because most of that is nonsense. We don't need it. We've gotten by without it for all these years. That's how that one bill passed. Was that 2 years ago? It was a bill. It had in it. It was some of the stuff wasn't bad in the bill, but they snuck a clause in there that you couldn't fish on your own property, and without a license and stuff. And we caught it. We sent it around to several different legislators, and we got them to come back the next session and do away with that law. But that is what happens way too often. They come up with these bills and they just want to pile on the government. And we're here, by golly, to eliminate as much government as possible while we still have some freedoms left. You like my shirt?
I love it.
Yeah, Jill and
Good on
Stacy,
you.
that show, I mean, I forwarded that around on Facebook and to a lot of people. You guys get involved, you learn the issues, and you educate a lot of people. And sometimes you might get frustrated and think, I'm not waking up enough people that fast, but you just got to be a little more patient sometimes. Eventually it's breaking through. Some people almost got to get to the point where their own ox is gored before they'll get involved. A few years ago, we had a Republican state rep from Boone County that had a law proposed. Everybody had to put a big old fence around their swimming pool, everybody. And I'm like, what? Even if it was a small, outside pool. So, the people rose up against that and we got them to kill the bill. But that's the way these things, they start and they just keep growing and growing and growing. So you just got to be on our toes all the time and at least call your elected officials, at least send them a text, create a green slip for them in Frankfurt, call your commissioners. It means a lot. It does mean a lot. You might not think it does, but it does.
Well, it does right now while we have Mary Ann and Steve Rawlings and Steve Doan. But I'm telling you, if you guys elect these other guys into office and get rid of our Liberty people, your voice will not matter. They do not care what you think.
Okay. Silent majority is starting to get louder and louder. They're not so silent anymore, thanks to you guys. And the legislature, you've got to hear the legislators, believe me. I mean, the legislators listen to you guys. They want to know what Jill and Stacy are saying.
This all started with you.
You know, I don't know about that, but they definitely like you guys. And if they don't like you, they fear you.